Hi, I'm Danny. Today I'm going to explain a movie where a group of friends unknowingly become part of a twisted ritual involving cannibalism, a man-eating forest monster, and a deadly escape plan that pushes their loyalty, fear, and courage to the limits. This story begins by showing two hungry men eating human flesh in the snow deep in the jungle to survive. One of them offers food to another man who is not eating, and he refuses to eat. We see a fourth man lying in the snow, who is most likely the deceased being devoured. Then they start walking. There are only three of them in the chilling environment. Soon they stop to look ahead as if they see something terrifying. The man who refused to eat sees nothing and asks what it is. But soon the other two, beginning to run in terror, he watches as one of them is grabbed by an invisible creature with its growls audible but not visible. The creature, whatever it is, mutilates the man. The scene shifts to years later, and we see a girl lying in bed with her boyfriend. He tells her she doesn't want to be there because she can't spend her birthday like this. The girl says she has no choice in the place they are. They simply don't let anyone out the front door. As she asks about Tim, we see an elderly man in another room with a badge. That says Timothy. He is a staff member of the psychiatric hospital where everyone resides. The young couple's names are Ethan and the young patient Nat. He goes to Tim, informing the staff member that today is Nat's birthday. He also hands him several cupcakes. The man wants to eat them, but initially declines, but it doesn't take long for him to accept while Nat also has one with a candle. Then Ethan behaves like a con artist, tricking Tim into going to the window to pour a drink on him. Ethan makes it seem like an accident, and this causes Tim to put his key card in his pocket and start taking off his sweater. Ethan seizes the opportunity to steal the key card and starts running with Nat. Obviously, Tim starts chasing them. Ethan uses the key card to open a door. The deceived man gets trapped behind the door while the couple runs through the hospital searching for an exit. Eventually, they escape through a bathroom window. They dash out and jump into Ethan's car. They quickly get in and start driving. The next scene shows them driving down an open road. Ethan puts in a CD playing electronic music, which fits well with their escape. He sings and dances, making his girlfriend laugh. Next, we see a group of young people in the forest setting up a tent. A girl thinks it's more important to cover herself in makeup than to help her friends with the task. Her name is Pippa, and she receives a new member for the group, a young man named Teddy. We find out he is her older brother, and this group of friends is associated with the couple we saw escaping from the hospital. A girl named Frances asks Teddy for his opinion on Ethan's plan to get Nat out of the hospital. He doesn't know what to say about it, but Pippa tells him to be more adventurous. Alone with Pippa, Teddy asks her what Nat thinks of him. She tells him it's not good, leaving him surprised that she's still mad since something happened a while ago. He asks Pippa if she can talk to Nat for him, but she doesn't respond due to the couple's arrival. Everyone greets each other happily until Teddy joins them later. Pippa is sitting in a tent with Nat and tells her she should give Teddy a chance. Then Ethan asks the makeup girl if she filled out certain forms, to which she replies that she hasn't. She asks Teddy to do it another time. Frances comes to Nat to say that her mother was asking about her. She's happy that Nat is still with them. The girl gives Nat a birthday present. When she opens the small box, she pulls out a necklace with a crucifix. Frances tells her to keep fighting because there's a chance that Nat won't be so lucky next time. Soon Ethan starts heading somewhere with Pippa to deliver the forms. They arrive at a house and knock on the door. When no one answers, the duo invites themselves in. We see a man using a hammer in a certain room. When Pippa calls out to see if anyone is home, the man hears her and shuts a seemingly important plastic box. Pippa asks Ethan if they can leave because she thinks the place is scary. As soon as she says that, a man appears behind her. He can't believe how she got into his house and insults her. She starts to apologize, but it turns out he was just messing with her after introducing himself as Blackwood. Ethan hands him the forms back at the other place. We see Nat smoking alone by the lake. Teddy approaches and asks if she's okay. She jokes about living the dream. Teddy mentions that the last time they went camping was also the last time they saw their mother healthy. He wishes he had returned sooner. Disagreeing with her brother, she says he wouldn't have done that anyway. As she leaves, Teddy is left alone feeling dejected. Then we see two of their other friends, Cam and Mike. Cam is holding the plastic box we saw at Blackwood's house. and hands it to an unknown man. He says that the owner of the house where their friends went is giving out hamburgers. The big man thinks eating that is not a good idea. His words bring a strange expression to Cam's face. He doesn't know how to respond to the big man, so they leave. In the next scene, Cam is preparing the barbecue. He looks at the hamburgers as he is about to grill them, feeling joyful. After grilling them, he prepares the hamburgers and hands them to his friends. We observe the group consuming them, but when he gives a hamburger to Pippa, the cautious girl tells Cam that he doesn't know where that came from. However, it only takes a few seconds for her to give in and eat the food. The only person who doesn't indulge in the meal is Mike, because he is vegan at night. Ethan tells Nat that he has a present for her that he will give later. Soon Nat announces to her friends that she loves them as she talks. Someone roughly throws a bag on the table, knocking some items over. It's Blackwood, and Kim asks rudely where he came from. The man instantly makes their night interesting by saying they should tie themselves up. He even produces some restraints. Blackwood says it's a simple request, but the group clearly sees this as meaningless. As Ethan gets up, Blackwood points a gun at him. He throws the restraints to the kids and demands that they do as he says. The scene shifts to them all being restrained. The man who deceived them instructs the group to listen carefully. He says, "There's a monster in this forest that hunts cannibals to eat them alive," saying that now they are the creature's next victims, as the burgers they ate were made of human flesh. The hamburger he gave them was made from some of their victims. If he feeds the monster, it will leave him alone for some time. Therefore, he has no choice but to participate in this ritual. He creates cannibals to feed the monster. Seeing that Mike wouldn't be of any use, he kills him right there. Cam starts to run, and Blackwood smashes a bottle over his head to stop his escape. Then for some reason, he holds a bag of blood over his head. He punctures it, and the blood spills all over him. After that, Blackwood puts the restrained group in the back of his van as he drives to a certain location. Frances manages to get a lighter from Nat's boot, and she uses it to start burning the restraint. Eventually, the van stops, and we see how everyone is now free. Ethan is the brave one to open the doors, which surprisingly are not locked, however. There is probably a reason for that. He enters the driver's area to discover that Blackwood is not there. Exiting, he tells Kay that the keys are missing. Cam reasonably says the man can't have gone far and starts running alone. Through the dark forest, Cam screams for his captor to reveal himself, while the group discusses what they should do elsewhere. We see a shadow approaching a terrified Cam. All we hear is his scream. Back to the group, Ethan decides they should find Cam, despite Teddy wanting to do something different. No one contests Ethan's decision at dawn. We see the gang still alive in the forest. Pippa is curious about the monster. Ethan says there isn't one, as they've been there all night and haven't seen it. Then we have a moment of Nat alone with her brother. He begins to tell the girl he is sorry for leaving her. She says it's not about what he did to her, but rather what he did to their mother. Nat says that their mother asked for him every day, and that every day Nat was forced to lie, that Teddy would be there the next day. As she talks about this, Teddy slowly approaches. After seeing something, his sister quickly stands in front of him and points out that he isn't even listening. Then she wants him to leave her alone. After that, Nat is with Ethan, asking if he thinks something happened to Cam. Her boyfriend doesn't know what to say and just knows he regrets bringing her there. Teddy says it was a mistake. He also complains about there being no van at this point. Ethan says he should run away like he always does. This leads Teddy to insult him. Besides, standing right in front of his sister's boyfriend, Ethan dares him to do something, and Teddy doesn't hesitate at the challenge. Due to the provocation, Ethan knocks him down to the ground. What stops the fight is Frances saying that Pippa is missing. It doesn't take long for Ethan to find her, although the disturbed girl says she wants to go home. So far, this situation seems to be the hardest for her. At night, Ethan tells his friends that they aren't leaving the forest during darkness. Therefore, they need to spend another night there, he tells Teddy. They should take turns watching. Teddy firmly replies he won't stay awake. But the next thing we see is him doing just that while the other three sleep close to each other. Frances is praying, and then we see, most likely from the monster's point of view, how it watches them from a distance. Soon Teddy looks in its direction and thinks he sees something. At this moment, Frances places her hand on him, startling him. She wants to tell him she thinks they will be fine. Before sleeping during his watch, Teddy hears sounds that make him rise to look. Before long, he moves back in fear when he hears growls and runs to the group. This wakes them up, and he instructs everyone to be quiet. He whispers, reminding them that something is in the woods. Turning around, Nat screams in fear upon seeing what it is, and running is all they can do. They settle in a ruinous area in the forest, then Frances falls somewhere alone. We see the bone sticking out of her leg, and she screams in pain. Nat and her brother run toward the girl, but it's Ethan who gets there first along with Pippa, as both drag the injured Frances. The brothers catch up the two guys, help her get up to walk with them. Soon after, Nat sees the monster behind them, and they all stop to look, but it has already disappeared. Ethan tells the girls to go ahead, so they listen to him. Unfortunately, Teddy also wants to run. The cowardly boy abandons Frances, causing her to fall. Ethan says they won't let her perish, but Teddy cares more about saving himself, so he runs away now. Ethan finds himself dragging Frances alone while being watched by the monster. As soon as Ethan stops, the girl begins to pray. He looks around for just a few seconds. However, in that time, the poor girl ends up disappearing, leaving only her necklace, which he picks up. Yelling for her does not make her reappear. With her disappearance, the bravest member of the group starts running alone through the dark forest until he locates the girls. He informs Nat about his brother running away and shows her Frances's necklace. Then the trio cautiously approaches another ruinous area. Nat feels the need to hold her boyfriend's hand, and Pippa holds Nat's hand as well. Together they move closer to the new area and soon find a kettle hanging over a fire. There is also a tent. As Ethan slowly heads toward the tent, a man behind him says he doesn't think Ethan should do that. He is the big man we saw earlier who refused to eat Cam's hamburgers. He is much more capable than they are, as he is armed with a rifle. Ethan asks for his help, but the man he refuses to deal with the trio, saying he'll turn his back, and when he turns back, he says they should have left as he turns his back to them. Ethan continues saying they need his help because they were kidnapped when he turns back. The man says he's sorry to hear that he's holding his rifle before pointing it at them. This causes Ethan to back off with Pippa. However, the bravest member of the group is now Natat because she stands in front of the loaded rifle. She approaches the man, saying he needs to help them. Natat is someone who understands that an unknown monster is more terrifying than a known human with a weapon. The next scene shows the four sitting together, backs to one another. The watch doesn't last long, as soon the monster appears and they all stand up. The man points his rifle in the direction the young people are looking, but doesn't see the monster after the group tells him several times to shoot at what they can clearly see. Ethan begins to try to grab the man's rifle, but the man overpowers him. Pushing Ethan falls to the ground soon after he composes himself. Ethan is grabbed by the humanoid-looking monster with large, sharp teeth. The man still doesn't see him. All he sees is Ethan levitating. The monster begins to attack Ethan, and the man is forced to shoot in the place where he believes the monster would be. Being hit by the bullet, the monster releases Ethan before turning around. It shoves the man out of the way because it's not interested in devouring a non-cannibal. Soon it is shot down by Teddy, who has taken the man's rifle. He wants to take another shot, but the rifle is out of ammo, so they find themselves once again forced to run. The trio without Ethan hides behind a wall. Teddy peeks to see the monster. He wants the girls to follow him as he crawls, and they all silently move to stay hidden from the monster. In this tense moment, Teddy pulls out a flashlight, and as he heads to another area, the monster slowly approaches the girls from behind. To save them, Teddy yells to the creep and tells the girls to run. For the first time, he takes action to save someone. Even if it costs him his life, the monster begins to chase him. Nat says they need to save Teddy, but Pippa wants to run. She says he abandoned her, making him a terrible brother. Pippa also thinks he is already dead. Then we switch to Teddy running alone in the forest. He looks around to check where the monster might be. He doesn't see it, but the monster sees him. Teddy only has his FL flashlight. Unfortunately, this can't help him much, and the boy trembles in fear, knowing he has nothing against the monster. Seconds later, the monster grabs Teddy by the head from behind. Subsequently, we cut back to the girls as they walk through the forest. Soon they hear screams in the distance. This leads Nat to pull a flare from her backpack and walk with it lit. The pair crosses an area with human skeletons on the ground. We see a badly injured Frances there, who sees Nat before Nat sees her. When Frances calls her, Nat runs over to her friend. Frances warns her to leave because this is the area where the monster feeds. At this point, Nat responds that Blackwood told, "Then he eats living people." She mentions she won't eat someone who she thinks is lifeless. That's why Blackwood covered himself in blood to hide. Nat says they need to trick the monster into thinking they're dead, so she starts to cover herself in blood from a nearby corpse. Pippa, however, can't involve herself in such a disgusting activity. Before leaving, Nat assures Frances they will come back for her. She also hands her injured friend the crucifix necklace. The next scene shows the pair continuing to. They run through the forest. It doesn't take long for Pippa to stop saying she can't do this anymore. Nat tells her she will lose her life if she doesn't keep going. But instead of running, she leads Pippa to a hiding place behind a ruined wall. There, Pippa tells her sister she loves her, and Nat returns the sentiment. They peek over the wall to see the monster ahead. Nat holds Pippa's hands, telling her to close her eyes. They sit there with their eyes shut for a few seconds. Nat peeks again, and as soon as Peepo asks if the monster is gone, it grabs her and starts to devour the poor girl. Soon it releases the lifeless body and screams at the sky. Following that, Nat starts to run. In the process of her escape, she steps wrong and falls to the ground. She sees the monster walking in the distance, but it doesn't seem like it sees her. Unexpectedly, it appears near the fallen girl and inspects her for several seconds. It leaves her because it probably thinks she is dead since she is covered in blood alone. Nat sits to look around as it becomes clear that the creature is gone. She starts getting up and walking. While walking, she sees a light in the distance and approaches it. As she gets closer, she discovers it's a fallen flashlight next to her brother Teddy. Instantly, she begins to cry at the possibility of his lifeless condition. She feels unable to cope with it alone, so she screams for the monster to come get her. Fortunately, Teddy wakes up, and fearing the worst, Nat begs him not to leave her. He apologizes for what he did. In the past, as he was scared and selfish in his tearful position, he wants his sister to know he shouldn't have left her with their mother. Additionally, he says he loves the last person who still remains and asks her not to give up because she is the bravest person he knows. But now Teddy asks her for a final favor. He doesn't want to be alive when the monster returns. Of course, his sister, not wanting to hear such horrible words, advises him to pretend to be lifeless. By doing that, the monster will leave him. Alone, he responds by saying that soon he won't need to pretend anymore. The act of love he had for her is the last declaration Nat hears from her brother. After hearing this, Nat picks up a heavy stone to hit Teddy, who is injured on the head. Taking his flashlight, she walks away. Eventually, she is fortunate enough to find the road and follows it until spotting a house ahead. Nat walks in that direction and locates her tent. Entering, she grabs the car keys from her backpack, then she passes by Blackwood's house, before sitting in her car and trying to start the engine, but it's difficult. Soon after, Nat looks in the back seat and sees the wrapped birthday present that Ethan was probably talking about. Upon opening the wrapping, it reveals a framed photo of Nat next to her mother. It's no surprise that the gift makes her cry. However, her critical situation doesn't allow her to look at it for long, so she sets it aside and tries to start the car again. After failing a second time, the girl exits the vehicle and goes to the house, where she finds a piece of broken glass. After that, she enters the house, illuminating the dark interior with her flashlight. She walks carefully and slowly before entering a room where she sees where the hamburgers were made and what utensils were used to produce the inhumane products. It's a room that evokes disgust in our heroine, forcing her to vomit after leaving the repulsive space. Nat continues to search the house. Soon the search is interrupted. When Blackwood finally appears at the top of the stairs, she insults the man, and he says he only did what had to be done. He tells a little story about how all of this started. He was in a plane crash that resulted in the survival of several people in a devastated and frozen land. Due to hunger, they resorted to eating that Blackwood. Blackwood's cannibalism attracted the monster, and it has been following him ever since. He calls Nat a survivor like him and adds that she must do what he does, feed the monster with humans. Nat violently responds to this. Madness. Stabbing the man with the broken glass after giving him a lesson, He begins to retaliate, holding her to the ground as they both struggle. There we see the monster outside quickly approaching the house. Blackwood has the advantage, but not for long. The monster breaks down the door and leaps onto the man, who has probably been defending himself against the monster for a long time. The monster drags Blackwood to another room and massacres him. Now that Nat is alone, she tries to hide from the unknown beast. To her dismay, the monster can go anywhere. There's no way to hide from it, so Nat eventually comes out. She gets back into her car, trying to start it to make it work. She needs to lift the hood. After making an adjustment, she manages to start the vehicle. The monster's behind her, but that doesn't matter to Nat as she escapes. It breaks free. While driving, she becomes furious and turns the car back around. The monster's a good distance ahead of her. As soon as Nat begins to drive towards it, the screen goes dark. When we return to the action, we see damage on the car, as well as the monster lying on the ground. Even with the force of the impact, it isn't enough to destroy it. We see the beast getting up behind the car. Nat tries to restart the engine, but now more than ever, she faces the same problem as before. Then the monster breaks into the car, joining her inside. Fortunately, the girl manages to escape while the monster gets stuck inside. She puts a piece of clothing in the gas tank before lighting it with her lighter. Within seconds, the car containing the monster explodes. Nat steps away victorious, and we see the photo of her with her mother burning later. An injured Nat enters a specific building to catch the receptionist's attention. She says she would like to check in again, implying she has returned to the psychiatric hospital from which Ethan helped her escape. Unfortunately, she never returned for Francis as she said she would.